Hello, and welcome to Escaping Dystopia. This is episode 107. It is August 1st, 2020. 93 representing Why We Walk. So, had a little discussion with my daughter this morning. Hold on, let's see how our height is. We're going to try and make sure we have all the fun stuff set up, because you know how we roll here. There's my guy. That's me. Hi. Hi, Roy. All right. So, let's see if we can get this a little bit better height. Before we really get rolling too far. Why we walk. Yeah, I was talking to my daughter today. She's 7, so my oldest child, one of the ones that we're leaving this planet for. And we were walking because we were going to a yard sale. This is our Spaceship Earth segment that I haven't been doing for a little bit. First we talk Spaceship Earth. First we talk Spaceship Earth. For those not aware, I've talked about this a few times back in the past. Spaceship Earth is kind of the code name of the moral system that I'm working on developing and helping humanity implement, which looks at our existence here not as the offshoot of some supernatural beings, but instead the process of physics and evolution on a very rare rock that is now hurtling through space, somewhat like a spaceship, and that we should in fact look at our ethical choices and moral choices through that lens and not through this whole supernatural I think God's the clouds thing, which evolved into God is not the clouds, God is above the clouds. Anyway, we'll have the discussion about pantheism later. Anyway, we were walking, and she was asking why we didn't drive. And I've explained to her global warming a little bit. She's heard about it before, so she kind of understands the idea. It was a hot day, right? It's August. So she understands the notion that it's a little warm outside, and that it's getting warmer. And I explained how, if we can walk, it's not going to solve the problem, but this helps make it a little bit less worse because, we're not driving. And I use that as a segue to say, hey, there's people who don't believe this. Because we were talking about the COVID stuff, and of course they had their masks on. These are my kids, 7 and 5. Our 2-year-old did not have a mask, but that's... Anyway, my kids had no problem wearing them whenever we went to the yard sales, so I think there's some possibility for at least, I was going to say well-disciplined children. Sorry. My kids are doing great. I don't know. It's hard. That's a scale that who knows how that works. Anyway, but there's people who don't believe in global warming. There's people who don't believe in this virus. This whole week has been 1,000 people a day dying. Our dystopian reality is becoming more clear. As we'll talk about, some of the stuff that happened this week includes the worst GDP results ever for the U.S. And this is really pretty disturbing because, let's see, let me make sure we got to sign it again. Let me get my tabs off my phone. We had 1,000 people a day. We had our gross domestic product drop by a record, 32% this last quarter. The quarter just ended at the end of June. There's 3 months quarters here in the U.S. And the president tweeted some ridiculous stuff about the election, and he's tweeted stuff about how he's going to shut down these apps, and that has consumed the media over the last couple days. And instead of having a severe and frank discussion about this retail apocalypse that's been going on, I've been talking about this for a few days. This is huge. This isn't something that you just snap back from, right? And at the same time, the Republican Senate refused to take up the House bill for the coronavirus stimulus to extend unemployment benefits, and also didn't extend the moratorium on evictions. So you have this massive economic crisis, and now the economic stimulus that had been happening, right, now ceases as they negotiate a new level. So the economic danger. Hey, what's up, Jen? I feel weird because I think when I say people's name, they're like, "Oh shit, he knows I'm watching," and then they run away. It's no big deal. I don't care if you come or go. It's all good. But we had this huge economic downturn this last quarter due to the virus, obviously. And this is what just blows my mind and what's so hard about the situation, right? Because we did this slowdown and people did it by state. There was no national lockdown. So again, all these people are like, end the lockdown. Like, what lockdown? Where? What are you talking about? Very few places actually did a full-on lockdown, and a lot of the places didn't need to do them, and they're not doing them now. And it's like, end the lockdown. Blah, blah. So we had this huge economic downturn. A third of our GDP. And for what, right? So we can go into these next few months with some record numbers of cases. Oh, so bad. So, by the way, and I just realized this, because, funny story. And this goes to, and I haven't talked about this much, and I'm going to be talking, let me find a quick story on our estimated deficit for next year. Oh man, this is going to be something I'm going to be talking about for years and years and years, because Jen, you know how numbers work, you know how math works, you know the most powerful force in civilized society is compound interest. Oh, so, alright, so estimated deficit 2020, pop that up, $3.7 trillion. That's what the Google says real quick if you just look. Here we go. America is on track for a $4 trillion deficit in 2020. Should it matter? Yes, it should matter, and it will matter, and this is why. Because, just to run some quick numbers by, I think the U.S., I'd have to look it up, but our GDP roughly right now is about $20 trillion a year, which is huge. The gross domestic product, that raised basically the value of everything produced in the country, in certain ways. There's a lot of rules and edges and cases that people are like, well, what's that? Anyway, so they try and come up with the best number they can. That's the best number that we have. That's what just dropped by a third. So you take a third off of 20, right? You're down to about 14. So our debt prior to this was roughly about 100% of our GDP. Now, the problem with debt is once it starts to get way bigger than your GDP, the interest payments become a sizable proportion of your GDP, and you have to have that much growth to pay the interest, to finance the interest. So you have these two things that before this were basically kind of equal. We were at about 100% of our gross domestic, our debt to GDP ratio, right? These two like graphs, imagine these graphs, we're about the same size, right? And say, we'll call this one GDP, it's about 20 billion. I'll call this our debt, which was about 20 trillion. So when this one drops by a third, right? And now it's down at 14, and this one goes up by 4, and now it's 24, right? Instead of them both being at 20 and being 100%, you now have a 14 to a 24, which is within spitting distance of 14 to 28, right? Or 13 to 26, which is now, instead of being at 100% gross domestic GDP to debt, we're at 200, like that. That's the scary, scary part, because if you look through the books and the stuff, you'll see that countries that start to get that 130, 140, 150, 160 GDP, debt to GDP ratio, start to lose control. And they start to have other people having to step in and say, well, you got these bills to pay, so you need to pay that bill before you pay this bill. And already before this, we were already at the point where the largest line item in our budget for increase in spending was the interest to finance our debt, right? It was already at, I think, like $150 billion a year. I'd have to look up again the exact numbers. But that number is about to go huge. So our economic situation going forward is dire, and that was the big story this week for the last couple days. And that's why I wanted to start off with it, because that and global warming are the two big stories. The two big science things, the two big math things. Every time. And so the update is, how are those going? So we're screwed on the debt stuff. We'll get to that later. But, screwed is a relative term. It's going to be a bigger deal. And I'm going to be talking about this. If everything plays out, we'll talk about the election here in a little bit. This is going to be a long show tonight, guys. I'm just going to keep talking because I want to try and catch up. Let me go ahead and share this on my regular page. This is so weird. Sharing my story, my timeline. I don't have a story. I just want to do doing some talking. And we'll post that. So those are the two big stories. Now, some of the chaff, some of the other stuff, I want to cover. I want to learn how to, because I'm missing some stuff that I'm posting one place and then miss it in other places, and then I don't see it someplace else. So let's start covering things that happened recently. All right, so today. This is a great point, and I'll do this real quick. And maybe we can do this as a little bit, so I can maybe cut this up to a piece. A governor, because I need to cut these up, and maybe we'll do that tomorrow. We'll do some editing. I'm teaching my kids how to film, edit, and program video games. I'm going to put them to work. All right, take two. A government does not announce that they have become fascist. They announce that anti-fascists have become enemies of the state. This happened last week. So, that, by the way, in case you have forgotten or never knew or ignored it when somebody told you, that's what Antifa, anti-fascist, that's what it stands for, anti-fascism, against fascism. So, let's get that in the thing. All right. Boom, see? And, the tweets were serious distractions, I think, for what was really going on, which was the GDP stuff. Let me go through what I've posted today. Oh, my gosh. So, the story here in Austin is going to be rough. So, what happened before, I think I've covered this a little bit. Some more details came out. There was a protest, a BLM, Black Lives Matter protest in Austin. Apparently, they were pretty constrained about where they could go and were protesting across a major street or an intersection. A car tried to drive through the crowd. The crowd kind of surrounded them. I guess started scaring them. One of the people who had been protesting was carrying an assault weapon, basically like an AR or an AK, one of those, big long gun. Because it's Texas and you can carry those walking around. Anyway, so he walks towards the car. A handgun comes out of the window. Bam, 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 bam. The guy with the long gun goes down and later dies. And so they end up, the guy who shot him was an army sergeant, turns out. His lawyer, he's got a lawyer, and they went to the police because they needed to turn them in. He had tweeted responses to the president, and South Park predicted this whole social media journalism thing, which has been going on for far too long, but that's what it is. These companies are ridiculous, but people do it, so. But he had tweeted responses to the president about if protesters come to Texas, they're going to get what they deserve, and basically, threatening premeditatively to respond with violent, deadly force to protesters. And then he did so. I mean, this changes from an unfortunate situation where both people are armed and there was misunderstanding to somebody instigating a response knowing that they'll have an excuse to shoot somebody. I mean, this is serious. This is a much different thing. And now you have them directly tied to the president asking for this. Saying you can go out there and shoot these people. Now, if they don't arrest him and charge him with premeditated murder, what happens next? Right, what happens after this when you have basically the go-ahead from law enforcement from all the way at the top that you are allowed to go instigate, drive your car into a crowd, and if anybody messes with you, you can blow them away. That's where we are on August 1st, 2020. 93 days to go to the next election. The story is out of control. The seeds. All right, guys. So there's it's basically a marketing scam, and we're going to see more marketing scams because people do more marketing nowadays and whatever. So they just sent these seeds. They basically got addresses, random or whatever, from people or whatever things, and they just sent them stuff, and they then post a review online that they can attribute very clearly to somebody because they sent them these seeds that this horticulturist... There's nothing here. These aren't demon plants. It's not like, oh, if you plant them, they will destroy you. Like, they're just seeds. It's kind of a weird marketing mix-up scam. Now, knowing how much we freak out about seeds, I wouldn't doubt that this might go into something else. That's something else. Also, watch, real quick, endorsement, watch Space Force. It's hilarious. Also, watch this video over on YouTube about our honest government and how well they're doing with things. Because, yeah. Oh, I got another advertisement for you here to watch real quick. We'll throw this out here. This is a great Nike ad. Just kind of talking about what we're looking at here, man, and what's going to be happening next. What do we got to deal with? Oh, wait, is this the right one? Maybe not. Anyway, there's that. I mentioned the other day about our farmers and that situation. We're selling an assload of stuff right now to China, which is really interesting considering the rhetoric that's coming from the president. And I absolutely think that there is some kind of... I would say with 60, 70, 80% surety, there's some kind of secret deal with him and Xi where he can talk smack. Xi gave him permission to say China virus a bunch and kind of blame China for this, I think. Because they haven't gone back on these deals yet. Maybe China really, really needs this food. But we've been selling lots and lots of corn and stuff to folks. Let's see. Obama gave a great speech at the Lewis funeral for John Robert Lewis, who passed away this last week. There was some big news in it as far as political news that he made, because he talked about something that is going to be a real possibility here going into this next legislative cycle. Got to work on those ums, sorry. Going into 2021, if the Democrats take the Senate, there's a pretty good chance that when they write the rules for the Senate for the next legislative cycle, the filibuster will not be a part of them. What this would mean then is that in order to pass some legislation and put it on the president's desk, you would need a bare majority in the Senate and a bare majority in the House. Currently, because of rules that, as Obama noted, have been around since Jim Crow, it takes 60, right? And because they need a cloture vote, there's some arcane stuff, and I'm not an expert on legislative stuff and Robert's Rules of Order and all that stuff. I do what I can. But the idea would then be that they don't have that, so we don't have the filibuster, so the Republicans can't block everything and require 60 votes, which is what they did, again, to Obama for half the time to keep a bunch of those judgeships open. So the Democrats had to change that. McConnell then totally got rid of it so he could force through Supreme Court justices on a bare majority, which means that effectively there's not really a filibuster anymore anyway. And what's the only thing, and McConnell would have absolutely gotten rid of it if the Republicans had held on to the House. I think knowing especially what's coming now and knowing that they only had so much time to do, forcing through the judges that they have. So anyway, Obama made some big news with that. We'll see what happens with that. The president claimed that he can change or postpone the election. He can't. They're run by states. If he tries to push it too far, then the Speaker of the House automatically becomes president on January 21st if there's not a new president yet. This is just the way it works. The laws. I think while there is some lower level loyalty to Donald over the Constitution, I think once you get to the vast majority of federal law enforcement and even higher-ups and local law enforcement, without question, their loyalty is to the Constitution before Donald. And if it becomes clear that he's directly against trying to retain power or mess with elections in ways that he shouldn't, it will cost him more than it gains him. I will say this. I think Bill Barr is wildly corrupt as an attorney general and will try and do some things to mess with the election. Some of the things that I've speculated about so far would be places like, so the president has been constantly lately trying to go after the notion, even like the ability to vote by mail, right? And we do that exclusively here in Colorado. Now, you don't necessarily, I actually haven't mailed my ballots in. I always go and drop them off because it's just easier. And I usually wait until, whatever. But there's been speculation that the Postal Service being a little bit slower has to do with some funding with this new crony that was put in as Postmaster General, which is true. He's got, most of the places now, he has like really bad cronies in there. In some places, it's really inexperienced. There's a lot of people right out of college running billion-dollar organizations in the government. This happened with some of the procurement for some of the mass stuff. Oh, God, there's a whole story about how Jared destroyed our national testing plan. Oh, man. All right, sorry, got a little bit off track there. All right, moving back here. All right, that gets all of that stuff. 92 days, 23 hours. I said 93 days, which is what it was, until the election. I don't think it's going to be postponed. I do think they might try and postpone some ballots. I think you're going to see some weird stuff from Attorney General Barr. I think he's going to charge somebody in the Biden family with a crime or announce an investigation. I think there's going to be something really, really shady coming from Barr. It's already showed up that the Ukrainians had sent Devin Nunes a package on Biden sometime earlier this year, which he hasn't contacted the FBI about. The intelligence services know about it, so they've briefed the rest of the Democrats, and the Democrats are like, Devin, would you like to talk about this? And Devin won't. It also came out this week that the ambassador to Brazil, let me get this real quick. Ambassador Brazil asked for help. So now, because, again, the president was impeached for this, but then Republicans were like, no, he can actually use his official executive powers to try and get election favors. He's been doing it a lot. Did I get the seeds on there? Did I get that? USA Today. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we want to know about that. Oh yeah, Devin Nunes being shown this package. You can read these if you want to, and of course, comments are always welcome if you want to chime in. Yeah. So all sorts of sketchy stuff going. Still 90 days out. All right. Bam. That catches us up to that. Do we have anything over here that was interesting to look at? Oh, the CDC data. We will see how this turns out. I posted a little graphic the other day about how cases seem to have leveled off while, California and Florida are continuing to see record numbers of deaths. The CDC website, from a data professional's professional opinion, is horrible. Their data visualization is ridiculous. It's really bad. I can't, at this point, think it's not intentional that they haven't been able to find a decent professional to say, hey, can you take this data and present it in a way that really shows people what's going on? Don't know about that. All right, we're doing good. Caught that up. Now, let's talk about some other stuff. Football. Bunch of football players had a meeting for the SEC the other day. The SEC was like, you guys are playing. They're like, is it safe? And they're like, no. Excuse me. And then they were like, well, how bad is it if we get sick? And then they're like, well, we don't know. Well, that seems weird. Yeah, it does. Let's play ball. Yeah, I mean, you can read the story. The players are like, well, I mean, do you know what's going to happen here? I mean, are we going to get sick? And they're like, yeah, somebody's probably going to get sick on every squad. And then they're like, well, we're at college, all these NFL teams and NBA, they're playing in these, bubbles where they're really pretty isolated, but we're going to be going to class every day with people who've been up all night partying. Is there any way that you can help us? And it's college, man. It's like, so we'll see. I don't think college football is going to happen. I would like it. I wish we had done better things, but we didn't. So we didn't. McConnell signals to Republican distance from Trump if necessary, which might very well be necessary. That's going to happen here with Corey pretty badly here in Colorado because Corey sucks. And he's losing. He's losing by, Donald's down by like 12, 13 points here in Colorado. It's not that close. This isn't a swing state this year. So we'll see what Corey tries to do to set himself up. There's some really sketchy stuff going on with Kodak and Donald and their executives. There was some big money going on. There you go. Fark gets the refer on these. That's awesome. Because I don't know what's going on. They're making hydroxychloroquine and drug precursor elements because they're great with chemicals. Because they're Kodak and they got like this $2 billion 25-year no interest loan to provide pharmaceutical stuff. And apparently the executives got a bunch of stock options like the day before it was announced. Their stock then went crazy, as you can well imagine. So the vote by mail thing, this is really going to backfire. And maybe, again, this is part of what the troll is to make it backfire and then point out that the backfiring is, the problem, right? That, we see all the polling and it looks like everybody's going to go to vote by mail, but none of the Republicans want vote by mail, so they're not going to vote by mail. So us going after calling vote by mail a scam is making them not want to vote by mail, but they have to or they're going to die because of the virus. Oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have told people not to vote by mail since so many places are going to have to... you have to understand, it's a weird world. We're heading towards an election during a pandemic with a totally incompetent, apparently foreign influenced, if not controlled, president. Oh, we're doing a census. We'll talk. We'll see if we get to that. So, but it's again just not. It's counterproductive, right? To try and do this. Anyway. Oh, good morning in Japan, or whatever time it is. I don't know. All right, moving on. Oh, don't do it that way. Uh-oh. Oh no! That's all right. I know right how to get back there because I learned. Hey, buddy. Talked about Biden's VP choice yet? No, I have not. I don't know. I see it's weird because it's pretty apparent that there's a lot of people's names being floated out there, and they're trying to judge a little bit of reaction to see who does well, who causes a lot of outrage, kind of having a little bit of kind of public vetting of their ideas and their candidates. It looks like, without question, that it's going to be, a black woman, which I think is great. Like I said the other day, I'm not a huge fan of the checkbox stuff. And I would have loved to see Warren in there, and I hate to see neither Hillary or Warren ever make it because they're both so talented and accomplished. But so I think, I don't know. I think it's going to be Rice if I had to flip a coin right now. There's a downside to that, of course, being that they're both Obama administration alums. Harris, I think, is also be great because I think she'll be really fun and interesting. She's always been on point every time I've seen her. Those are probably my top two that I think are most realistic. I don't know, anybody you're particularly interested in hearing about? Yeah, and that's what the thing too. I mean, Liz might be end up being in secretary of something. I mean, I think she's definitely. I mean, or even just running the CFPB the way it's supposed to be run. I don't know, but I mean, she's definitely going to be involved. It was funny. I think I have this actually up here to talk. Yeah, I'm fine with Kamala, and especially too if he really makes that a part of just the racial justice and equality, and that becomes a big thing for his BP. I mean, I think she would be in a good position to do that. She gets a lot of heat from the far left too, from her background. Yeah, Case, I'd love to see Warren. I mean, absolutely, without question. I think she's great across the board. I think if people would, yeah, Kim Kardashian, she seems nice. I had to. Let's get that. No, there it is. Tabs from other devices. Don't want my history from today. Don't want to be sharing those links. No, I had to, because Google News, because I made, oh my God, the AI, so I click, right, on news stories, 'cause I read constantly, and, oh, Kanye, what's going on? I'll click on that. Oh, do you like Kanye? Well, I have news for you because you clicked like. Kanye's doing this. Kim's doing that. Courtney. No. Oh, less stories like that. And I think it finally clicked that I don't really care. His whole story and that whole thing is a mental health story, and it's not a coincidence that I guess he's dropping an album this week, which is fine. I'll say this about Kanye, and I need to work this into a comedy bit. Because I remember, and Jen, you can remember this too, the thing that Kanye's music did was allow a bunch of white college students to just scream the N-word over and over and over at very loud volume at parties in public. And I think it was probably the last time that was in any way acceptable with his Gold Digger song. The song does not go broke, if you've heard it on the radio. But yeah, that's what Kanye did. And remember, his whole fashion thing was dressing like a white preppy guy, and it was groundbreaking. But he's doing that, and that's his music, and that. Hey, got a lot more money than me. So if that's what your thing is, then. But like I said, Kim seems nice. She's really attractive. She's not bad at giving head. And I only know that because I've seen her. Sorry. Like I said, tonight's show is going to get a little blue. It's late. It's been a long week. All right, where are we at here? Kodak, got that. Lincoln Project, they're just driving Donald crazy. That's the whole point of the Lincoln Project. I think it's fine. I have a lot of... there's a discussion forum that I'm in with some people from my school. I don't know, Jen, if you want to come, I can invite you over to that. You can see how bad it is, actually. It's sad sometimes to think some of the people there actually went to the place I did. That's ego talking. People are people. The Lincoln Project and Republicans turning against Trump is great, and it makes me like more Republicans, right? That some of them realize that he's that bad and they need to stand up and do stuff. So I think they are, apparently, like the whole plan, like in that link was they're just trying to mess with him and just trying to get him, just annoy him. That's it. That's why a lot of their ads aren't like really, like, what is this ad? It is literally just trolling him. That's all it's for. Vindman wrote a really nice op-ed today. I'll throw this in there. Right? And yeah, nothing can shock me at this point either. And that's the thing. I mean, we've kind of become, right, a little a nerd to it. And I'm not, saying that's bad. It is what it is, right? You keep pricking something, you're going to get a callus. And I think we've all got some calluses from this. Man. All right. Moving on. Oh, nope. Coming back. Moving on. Joe Biden's strategy seems to be working. This is a little older article. I think Joe's doing fine with his campaign. I mean, they show up here, they do there. He's not invisible. He's making some points. I'd love to see them do something great, which would be come out and be like, Donald, here's some ideas for things you can try before the election, before January, that will help the nation. And just be like, do the rent stuff. Get this other thing sorted out with unemployment. Get a national testing plan. Here, my team will send one over to you. You can take credit. And I think Biden could actually, they could, and do it. And just do it. Just be like, here, we'll help you. Do this. Because you guys are bad at all of this. And there are people who can help. Yeah, the election's getting more crazy. Ooh, here's a fun one for all my hipster friends. Which, I'm one of them. You got me. Anyway, if you want to buy some Fire Festival stuff, you can get in on those auctions. You're going to be paying out the nose for one of them hats, though. Excuse me. And you got like 12 days, and there's already, these hats are up to like $300 for the Fire Festival hats. That's what I just shared the link. It's funny. Anyway. Boom. Donald threatens, he threatens people all the time. I'm not going to even worry about that. Portland. In Portland, they pulled back the federal officers, and then ended up that people just chanted and sang all night. Oops, will it? Jeez, gosh. No tear gas, no need for leaf blowers, no need for all this stuff. And so, I think that even there, the dynamics are not going to work out well for Donald. I mean, he can try and claim that, sending in the troops quelled the protests, but, people have to just believe that that's true instead of what actually happened, which is they stopped instigating people, and it stopped getting worse. Because I'll tell you, man, when they started to, ramp it up, you're not going to have more than the people. The people. And the people now are organized. Right? I mean, you have to stop them, you have to do the stuff like they did in Iran and India and Kashmir and shut down the internet. I mean, and if we get to that point, and Donald gets to that point, I'm going to tell you right now, go to the streets. Take to the fucking streets. If he shuts down the net to try and save himself. I don't think he will, because I do think he's a coward. So a lot of this is he's just trolling people, but there's real damage being done. I mean, our economy dropped by 1/3. 150,000, 1,000 people a day are dying. And it's just out of control in places that are not shutting down. And that's the thing, too, that's just on what's going on in some of these places in Florida and Texas, is they're going to do this, and then the schools, and then football, and all the sports, and then regular disease season. The whole idea behind the show, escaping dystopia. The best way to escape a dystopia is, of course, to avoid it in the first place, right? I mean, but I guess we didn't do that. We didn't do that. All right. Yeah, so like I said, he's going to get a little bit more desperate because, as I'm going to show here, like the stuff he's doing is not working. He doesn't know how to change any of it. He gets bad advice everywhere. He doesn't know what good advice sounds like. He has and so it's not going to turn around, right? There's no way for it to reverse itself. Yeah, right here. Portland protests calm after federal officers leave city. You think to delay the election stuff? I don't think he can, and I think it's just, it was totally a distraction. I think it was absolutely a distraction this last week from the horrible economic numbers. And because I saw it, and I watched, because again, I refreshed the news, and I think Google News is a fairly decent zeitgeist indicator. This is what the whole Newslander thing is hopefully about, like a few years down the road, but just to kind of show what the big story is and who's talking about what it is. And man, his stuff like that just pops up, and everybody's talking about it now, and it's like, and it's a frickin' tweet. I mean, it's not even an executive order. Like, he couldn't, and even like that, like he does, like, oh, I'll do this executive order to do this, and then people read it and be like, well, that executive order doesn't actually do that. It, sets up a study and a commission and orders somebody else to think about maybe doing it. And so, these mythical powers that he's been given, his own, authority, where he claims the authority to do stuff, is just him, like, talking. It's one of the things it does, and it has absolutely exposed, and we talked about this a few times, but in the U.S. kind of style of government, in the U.S. Constitution, if you watch Hamilton, it's an accessible way to understand this. Assumed in every aspect of the way our government works is that the people doing it are good, decent, honorable people. And even if you look at the disagreements between Hamilton and Burr and all the disagreements that were there, the malfeasance, there wasn't anybody acting intentionally badly. Everybody just had different ideas of what they want. And, you can question that on Burr, but whatever. But all the other folks, they were all just trying to get, what they wanted. They weren't just trying to break things or destroy things or distract. I don't know. Sorry, I got a little off there. But anyway, no, I built on the notion of there being honorable people making these decisions, right? That we empower people, but through that democratic process, we won't empower a tyrant. And you can go back and read, Hamilton's writings on tyrants. I should go back and find some, and maybe I can find a nice quote. But I think a lot of that was distilled into the musical. And the similarities between, and that's the thing, when you see a leader with true malfeasance, right, and someone who's going to send in the troops to show you how much I love you, that armed battalions to show you how much I love you. I wish I could. I can't even think it right now. I'm a horrible singer. You guys don't want me to sing or even try. So, the Eurozone also had a huge shrinkage this last GDP quarter of 12.1%. That is smaller than 32% by about 20%. So again, it's biggest decline in history, 12.1%. but they're actually starting to open up a little bit more rationally, but still seeing new outbreaks, right? The virus don't care about all our numbers. All it cares about is replicating. And how it does that has nothing to do with anything from our sphere of consciousness or noticing things. This is a force of nature. It does not care about your politics. It only cares about your genetic makeup. It doesn't. It's hard to really conceive of how much a virus doesn't care about so much of these things. And physics, right? The global warming, like these things that we are so political about, but are science-based, there's no here, there, or other on that side of it. You know, yes, and I will send a fully armed battalion. I wish I could sing it, because he's so great. I could do the spittle. I can get the spittle, but tone is just not my thing. Revealed super rich. Donate to Cuomo. I'm not a huge Cuomo fan. Yeah, we'll see. This is kind of one of those. I'll share it. I'm not gonna talk about it. I just need to. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Where's my paste button? Our good computer guy. Yeah, we're going to have to tax the shit out of billionaires to pay off that deficit that I was talking. For those who missed the first part of the show, I was talking about how screwed we are. As our GDP shrinks and our debt goes way up, and we're going to have to pay it with taxes. Oh, this last week also, here it comes. Yeah, I've had a little bit of gaseous issues this week, so you'll have to excuse my live show and the fact that I've got a microphone right over my chest. So as the gas comes up, you hear it. Two major COVID-related ideological political deaths this week. And this is where, again, I was just saying, the virus is an RNA replicating virus. It's not conscious on any level that we can conceive of. It doesn't speak English. It doesn't want to own the libs. It wants to survive and expand. And it's in its living that it causes our deaths. And it doesn't care. So, Turning Point USA co-founder died. They mocked the notion of wearing masks shortly before his death. Herman Cain also died this last week. I feel sorry for, again, these families, and even I think, Louis Gohmert also tested positive this week. We should have some links about that somewhere up here. Legal armies. I know, there's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, but I don't have it in the right order, because whatever, I'm going to talk to myself. I know that's fun and exciting to listen to. Alright, so Herman Cain died, this other Turning Point guy died. Herman Cain probably picked up the virus in Tulsa. This guy probably got it at Donald's rally in Arizona. So we just, they can't do the rallies, right? Again, virus don't care, and they can't do the rallies. Fauci says you should probably wear eye goggles. Eye protection. It gets in through the mucus stuff. Instead of going to political rallies inside buildings, you should wear eye protection. And you see even these people, because I guess Donald needed an ego boost, so he gave a little speech at the airport in Florida. And there's like 3 people wearing masks. And there's a whole row of sheriffs behind him, and none of them had a mask on. And I'm like, this guy was hanging out with Louis Gohmert. Like, you guys, Gohmert. Louis Gohmert. Florida reports record increase in COVID-19 deaths for a second day in a row. This is from 2 days ago. It's raging across here. And I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is the other thing too. So there's a study in the University of Hospital of Frankfurt examined cardiovascular MRIs of 100 people who had recovered from the coronavirus. The heart images showed that almost 80% of recovered COVID-19 patients had structural changes to their hearts. 60% of patients had ongoing myocardial, heart muscle, inflammation even after recovery. Some of these people didn't have symptoms. We don't know what this virus is doing to people. We don't know how bad it is. It attacks the lungs. It attacks the testicles. This is one reason why it's killing more men, potentially. Because of they have a particular type of receptor that it has little nodules that grab on and rips it up, and it does that to your balls. I'm not joking. Like, this guy, man, I've seen like a bunch of the autopsies that they're doing. Here's a guy who got a number of his family members killed. Again, he didn't believe in the virus. He had a get together. Somebody came, they gave it to him. They pass it on, they pass it on, they pass it on. There are deaths in the family related to this party, and this it's real. It happens. I've seen 3, 4, 5, 6 individual stories of this cliche. Right? Not even like the avoiding it, or, I tried, or I wasn't even thinking about it, or whatever, but like I was actively, it's a hoax, now people are dead, please people wake up. Right? How do you, it's hard to convey this whenever the most best sourced story ever, with video footage and confessions and, computer drives, fake news. Fake news. No, there's video, there's evidence. We literally asked you yesterday. Fake news. But reality, and we might be able to see a freaking UFO next month. Sorry. I love the UFO stuff, and it's always a fun segue. That's not real. What happened to my story? Oh, is that a fake story? Did I get trolled? Oh, no, there it is. Oh. The dad. No, the dad is not the best source. The anti-mask thing is really confusing for the media here in Japan. They talk about it every day. What exactly is it about Americans that make it such an issue? We ain't gotta listen to so damn scientists. I don't know, man. And it's a really small subset. I've talked about this a few times. Roughly in any percentage of group, when you get, about 20% of people are just not particularly bright, and I'm being very kind. I can go blue on that, but in America you have that 20%, and then you just have bad information given to people who just aren't that sharp, and it dulls them and turns the knife around backwards and sideways, and they stab it in their own eyes, and they're like, I can't see nothing. Maybe stop stabbing the knife in your eye. Master, and we talked about this with the kids today. We're walking around, it's, 85 degrees, 90 degrees, which up here is really hot. And, they're uncomfortable, and it's like, well, you can take it off now and breathe. And you get used to it, and then you forget, but then you put it back on. It's a thing that you're doing that's an active act because, again, RNA that wants to kill you floating around. People forget that we're guests here. Like, really, really guests. All right, let's see. Tabs from other devices. We're going to try and catch up, because like I said, I want to get through all my other stuff. I like this whole thing, but I don't know how long I can go for. How long has this been going on? Forever? All right. It's midnight plus. We're fine. It's Saturday. I'm partying. This is what I do for fun. Not really, but whatever. All right, here we go. UFOs. Postal Service. Oh my God. I say that too much. Let me read you this and you'll understand why. The Treasury Department agreed to loan the U.S. Postal Service $10 billion in emergency coronavirus relief funding Wednesday in exchange for proprietary information about the mail service's most lucrative private sector contracts. And you're saying, wait, what? Why would the Treasury Department care about the Postal Service's private sector contracts, particularly the ones with Amazon? And that's what they're saying now is, oh yeah, sure, we'll help you out, Post Office, but what is this deal with Amazon anyway? Oh, and these other guys, well, I'm Steve Mnuchin, I've got a lot of investments, and some of my friends are in shipping, so I'd be curious to see what the exact rates and what discounts you're offering. So maybe when they bid, we'll see what kind of offer they can make. Maybe it'll be better. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it'll be worse. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see those contracts. This is seriously like mind-blowing corrupt. It's super boring. Post office contracts. Wildly corrupt because no. And this is the thing, too. I mean, we're in wildly corrupt here. U.S. officials tell AP. Russia is spreading dire virus. Oh, yeah. Russia's doing this, too, to a pretty bad case. And this is one of the things, too, where they've got like just a foothold where people go onto their Facebook groups. And I don't know how many of them are interacting with these people, with these trolls. But, yeah, they're just like the most vicious. Like, nobody believes in anything, pandemic, Fauci's a nutball. Wait, I was the president going after Fauci today again. So yeah, that's why case, because our president. Yeah, see, maybe like I'm sure in Japan, like the media maybe covers that, but they don't cover like the day-to-day stupid probably nearly as much because they can't possibly have that much time. Jamie Harrison, I was right about his name the other day. I remembered it. He is making fun of Lindsey Graham, who I'd love to see Lindsey Graham lose. I don't think it's that close. I think it's within a few points. But, man, Lindsey Graham, and that's what he hits him about, too, because, saying, Graham used to be not a lapdog, and he had a little bit of spine, but then he lost the spine. No more spine. No more spine. No more spine. Just checking to see. Ba-doop, boop, boop, ba-doop, boop. Oh, yep, that's an old one. Why are you telling me about that? All right. Oh, yeah, this is John Lewis's final post. What is it? Can't remember words when it gets late. Or during the day, usually, actually, to be honest. Is epitaph? That's not right, though. Oh, it's right there. I can almost think of it. Anyway, he asked them to publish this after he died. I think there's a word for that, but I can't remember it. It's a good read. He was a good man, fighting a good fight. Attorney General Bill Barr, on the other hand, calls Black Lives Matter protests in Portland an assault on U.S. government. This is about some of the hearing this week. If you want to read it, you can. Those are the contrasts. I mean, I don't think there's ever been really a clear, not in my lifetime, certainly, a clear contrast between the two political parties, their implementations, their heroes, their everything. I know it's a big libertarian and a super left thing. Your, Rogans and your whatever, your crazy leftist Twitter people to call both parties the same. But when Bill Barr is calling Black Lives Matter protesters and anti-fascist terrorists and doesn't even know the details about most of the cases that people are chanting the names for these individuals, which showed up in the hearing. They, oh no, I hadn't heard about that one. No, I'm not familiar with that. It's like, well, you don't even know why these people are protesting, but you're calling them terrorists for doing this, and that's not good. Boom. This is an article on economics that says paying people $600 a week does not cause them to not work, which is a hard thing for people to understand, but I'm sure it's probably pretty true. The evidence says no. There was a Yale study about it. We're in these kind of situations that I think are so specialized. I think they're really pretty hard to study other than, well, last time this happened, this is what we tried, and this is what people did. Oh, here's a good one. Here's two stories for you that go together. Biden and Trump build legal armies for electoral battlefield. So much of this is going to be fought in the courts with Trump judges. That's what's scary. That's why I think a lot of people need to, and I hope everyone can ultimately, vote. And of course not vote for Donald, vote for Joe. And make the landslide so big that all these things can't change it and can't fix it. Because this other one that I'm going to show you from the Boston Globe kind of covers that a little bit more, saying that they kind of gamed out a bunch of these different things, like what happens if he wins the popular vote and then Trump gets the electoral college, or what if it's a weird thing, or what if some states can't certify and nobody knows what's going to happen, who's going to call out that. They did like the role-playing game. I guess there's some fairly complex rules for, non-nerd role-playing stuff. I don't know. I've never done it, but apparently, Model UN, there's another level to that. So that's what that story's about. It did not go well, unsurprisingly. So I think we just need to get that many legal votes with this last chance, because if we don't get it here, we're in trouble. How you can fight Russia's plan to troll Americans during the 2020 campaign. One, first and foremost, be aware that it exists. Be aware that Russians are out there. This is from the RAND Institute. This is from mid-July. The RAND Corporation, Objective Analysis, Effective Solutions. But they talk about here that, the end goal for these efforts is to trigger emotional reactions and drive people to ideological extremes, making it nearly impossible to build a consensus. The Russians also hope those who are not driven to extreme positions will throw up their hands in frustration and check out, walk away. The result is political paralysis. See, that's the whole idea behind these campaigns, is to directly try and, drive a wedge between the Americans and drive a wedge between everything we believe in and drive a wedge between each other. So much so that you have one Army sergeant shooting another veteran who's protesting for things that they're both supposed to be fighting for. And that sense of otherness, let me go a little bit kind of biological, a little philosophical, evolutionary psychology for you. This othering is very, very natural to us as social animals and social beings, just because we kind of grew up with, my tribe is good, that tribe is bad, and we could switch that, and my team is good, your team is bad, they're the same, my high school is good. And we take these things and that we fall into them as humans just so quickly and so easily. And when somebody, directly tries to exploit that with, specific trigger words and things that are very emotional, it's very effective. And that's what has been the campaign to attack American democracy, has been on that vector, to try and drive that wedge, expand people out, throw these ridiculous memes, these just really vicious stuff out there. And now, of course, you guys know that I'm not particularly gentle in my rhetoric. But I try and base it in fact and bring it around to a agreeable slot. But a lot of these tactics that they use are impossible to ever try and do that, and by design. Read that story if you're interested a little bit more on that stuff. Robert O'Brien, Trump's national security advisor, tests positive for COVID. It's all around them. It's been a total cluster, complete incompetence. Not done yet. It's going to get worse before it gets better, even from here. Marlin Orioles game canceled due to another player. 20 total cases reported on the team. This is another story from yesterday. God, these things feel like, oh, well, yeah, wait, today's Sunday now. Past midnight. Somebody went out and partied, picked it up at a club, and then brought it back. This is like, I mean, it's like you aren't a baseball team. It's like you're a sex team, and you're all banging each other. And if somebody has sex with somebody else, you're all gonna have showers together. RNA don't care. He don't care about your favorite team. Don't care if you're gonna win the World Series. Don't care how many rings you got. It's like way. You can't even see that shit, man. It's on a way different level than any of this. RNA don't care. We got a new playset coming for the. Oh, that's not. All right. Ooh, now we're getting closer. LA is on the trouble. Where is this? This was from 10 days ago. States are still trying to get all the resources they need. Cities now too. Cowboys led my season ticks this year. All ticks. What is XLED mean? Oh, canceled. I'm smart. I told ya, smart. So they gave you your money? Yeah, I wouldn't expect it. I don't. Yeah, I don't know that anything's gonna happen this year, especially for football. Which sucks, man. I mean, I can't even speak to you. No, thanks. Absolutely, I need guests. And I thank you. Thanks for hanging out, Jen. I hope you have a nice night. Don't feel obligated to ever watch it all. I'm just having fun, man. It's either this or, this all just goes on in my head anyway. So might as well put a camera up, right? Have a good night. Thanks for dropping by. I'm going to try and get through a couple more things. I've gotten through a lot tonight. It's been a long show. I love that UFOs. God, if they have a crashed UFO, that'd be so freaking cool. So freaking cool. Oh, so speaking of, again, I was talking about the trolls, the Russian trolls. There's other people too here in the U.S. who are just like, yeah, well, I'm gonna be this whole troll and this whole. Remember this anti-fascist flag burning and face painting event that was going to be in Gettysburg, and this guy promoted it on Facebook, and then all these trolls show up, and these bikers and white supremacists, because they're going to defend America from Antifa, and we're going to stop them terrorists. And it was just this guy just trolling everybody, and he made these signs, and that was it. It was never real. And so much emotion is being spent, so much time, so much effort on crap that's just not real. People on the internet, nobody knows if you're a dog. And this is the way it used to be, and people used to understand this. And then, and Facebook really kind of switched this around, and it was a big change. And that was one of the reasons why I joined originally, because the internet at large had degraded to a degree that it was hard to actually interact with things that you knew were actual people. And now in 2020, even this format and this thing has degraded quite a bit. So now to get true interaction on any of these, you can't even depend on a local news story. My local news pages on Facebook are overrun with foreign accounts. It's crazy. There's probably 5 or 10 of them. It's really disturbing. That's why I have the other group that I chat in, so I can actually see some real people. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is one of the big ones too. The census is happening. We've been talking about this. The president's still trying to do this whole white supremacist thing and say that, people who aren't citizens don't matter, which is directly against what the Constitution says. So, I don't know that that's going to work. I think we're going to have to redo the census. I've said this before. So that's not new or interesting, but now I can close that tab. I don't know if you guys are going to have another one case, but your first one was super cute. And there's a jaw-dropping fertility global crash. Nobody's having no babies. So nobody's going to... I don't know. I guess my kids are going to be playing alone forever. Japan's one of those that's supposed to, the population's supposed to drop in half by the next century. So in another 80 years. Just crazy. But anyway. So that tab's gone. All right, we're going to be able to get rid of quite a bit of this stuff. And then we'll talk about some other things. You know, it's interesting. The older these things get, the less relevant they are. So hopefully I can just get caught back up totally, which would be fun. We'll get there. A couple more days. All right. Case, thanks for hanging out, man. Thanks for your questions. That makes the show a lot more interesting, dude. Yes. I think once I went to the whole frickin' like the panty stuff in the vending machine, that is not a sexually healthy society. And that whatever. It's easy to criticize what people like to do to have orgasms or not, I guess, apparently. So, yeah, thanks for hanging out. I'm going to stop. I could make silly jokes about sex all night long. And they'd be funny, too. I was going to, like, this was the year, right? Because I could spin this into, like, 5 minutes, right? I could do a decent bit, I'll bet. And I was going to stand up and do this on a stage, but not this year. Maybe next year. All right. Yeah, have a good night. Thanks for dropping by. Anybody who sees this later, feel free to comment on the show when we do it live, because I do read. I can read sometimes. Have a night. Take care, everybody. Peace out. 93 days. Then it's over, hopefully. That's part of it. I'll stop. Good night.